So I'm sure some of you guys saw my discussion with Cody Hughes about the merit of Olympic lifts and training for team sport athletes. That just started some more conversation on social media. So somebody sent me this post by Strength Coach Network. The post says that instead of doing Olympic lifts, you should do this power complex. And so the person who just sent me this post wanted me to share my opinion, so I'm just going to react to it here. And if you don't know what the power complex is, it's basically a French contrast without the band assisted jumps. So here's what the post says. Doing this allows team sport athletes to get overload at the hip. To which I say, yeah, so does a lot of things, but what about overload at the knee? Power complex gives you weighted triple extension with intent. Again, yeah, sure, but what about triple flexion? And the power complex achieves higher ground reaction forces than catching a clean. To which I say, yeah, this may be true, but there's no external load. And ground reaction forces don't necessarily mean much. It's not the same as forces that are produced by muscles. Drop a boulder off a plyo box, you'll see ground reaction forces. I don't know if that really matters for this argument, but catching a clean places a greater global stress on the organism than dropping off of a plyo box. Force plate data isn't nothing, but it's not everything. My question in response to this post is that all you recognize about the Olympic lifts? Is the only thing that you see overload at the hip, triple extension, and eccentric rate of force development upon receiving the bar? Is there no other stress or demand placed on the body? It's really easy to see how one would value the power complex or a French contrast variation over the Olympic lifts when this is the lens that they see the Olympic lifts through. They don't see the athlete producing force into an external body of mass only to have to yield that same body of mass milliseconds later. They don't see various joints having to go through large ranges of motion and getting in and out of end ranges under load. They don't see how this trains the somatic nervous system to improve protective mechanisms against potentially harmful positions. And you'll see right here in the post, athletes might not have the ability to catch a clean. Guess what? It doesn't matter if they don't have it, because as we said in the beginning, team sport athletes do not have to clean and jerk in competition. Saying, well, an athlete doesn't have the mobility demands for a clean doesn't mean you should ignore it. You should address that lack of mobility, and catching a clean is probably the best way of doing so. They don't see the elastic qualities of the muscle tendon units being trained in joint ranges that it's hard to train them in. Elasticity is easily and typically trained in shallow knee and hip flexion. Olympic lifts train elasticity in deep knee and hip flexion. They don't see the demand on upper limbs to produce high outputs as a complementary component to the lower limbs. This is really important in a lot of sports. And Olympic lifts train this general quality better than anything else. And then lastly, if you're making a point about efficiency, a power complex like this or a French contrast is way less efficient. It requires a much more elaborate setup, and one round of this complex takes way longer than just one set of cleans or snatches. There's way more to address, but I'm going to keep it short for this video. So that's just my quick comparison of the power complex and the Olympic lifts. I think it's pretty easy to see which one is probably a better use of your time. So thanks for watching the video. I'll see you next time.